Hi girl, welcome. Get ready for the story on how I went from a mom of 3 who is single to a stay-at-home baby mama. You would think this is when this occurred, but sadly no. In December, we brought our baby girl home and boy was it rough. I was still reeling from the fact that he had broken up with me while I was pregnant, and now we are trying to navigate new parenthood while at the same time I'm suffering in silence about this breakup, but trying to do my best to move forward and still hold on to hope. So Easter 2020 rolls around and I suffer a miscarriage.
What?
Yeah. I know what y'all thinking. I know what you're thinking.
Bro, what are you talking about?
By the end of January, early February, we had got to a place where
you just sort of slipped and fell on this dick.
yeah.
Well, all right. Okay. All right, so I want to know all the details.
I was just appreciative. We had this new life that we were raising together, and even though we had our really rough moments and times in those weeks, it was still postpartum emotions. And so we did have an interaction that led to me getting pregnant.
She's helping me to not freak out. Just try to comfort her. Keeps me busy. I know, baby. I'm trying to find
Lovely, you gotta process it so we can figure out what's the next step. But because of COVID, I was not able to go in and get an ultrasound while I was still pregnant to confirm just how far along I was, but I did do the urinalysis. So I was in the process of trying to get an appointment booked, but yeah, because of COVID. So when Easter 2020 rolled around and I suffered my miscarriage, it was very traumatic because I was far enough along that the baby was like a little miniature fetus. Like, you could definitely kind of make it out. It just looked like something that you would find on a keychain though. Like, that was about the size of it. It was very, very tiny. It was a bit traumatic because I didn't know anything about miscarriages. I had never had a miscarriage. I wasn't fully aware of anybody who had had a miscarriage and like really just divulged all that went on with miscarriages. So to actually experience it in a point within my pregnancy where I was far along enough that things could be made out, yeah. Wasn't expecting that. Also very painful. So that was our Easter 2020, and then a week later he shared with me that he had cheated on me with his ex-girlfriend while I was still pregnant. And so came out that it happened sometime in June around my birthday.
Bitch nigga, you's a liar. I'll set your face on fire. Stupid bitch nigga, I hope you drown. That'll turn my frown upside down.
Yeah. Made a whole lot of things make a lot more sense. Because up until that point, I just thought like, you know, he broke up with me and we were growing distant and, you know, the whole nine because of this new pregnancy and like the move and all this other stuff that was going on. I had no idea that infidelity was also a part of everything. So guilt finally got to him where he finally shared a week after I had a miscarriage. So then July rolls around and, you know, we have moved past a lot. I'm still working towards like reconciliation with him, not as far as us actually being together like in that time period, but more so open to the idea of us possibly being together in the future. So was working through that. It was, again, COVID, so we were on lockdown, didn't have a whole lot to do but be around one another and raise our baby. And so July was a really good month. I would say that was a really good time period. But like all good things, it did come to an end. And by November, he was going off to basic training. I had quit the airline so that I could be with my baby, because like the airline was one of those jobs that were essential. And so they were forcing you to get vaccinated. They were also, with my airline, because I did work for a private charter airline, they had a lot of government contracts. So they were doing a lot of like refugee flights and things of that nature. So the time period on when you could be gone and away from your home could be up to 28 days at a time. So with me having a child that was under 1 year old, her father and I not quite on the best of terms, living in a state by ourselves, it was just, had to let the airline go. But I did find a work from home job that I felt I would really enjoy. Because of, now being a mom who is single, but also is really about to be physically single as well, with him going off to basic, I decided to also let go of my server job. So it was just like a completely fresh new start. And it was one of the most beautiful time periods in my life, as well as one of the hardest, heartbreaking periods of my life, because for the first time, I was now able to have the space and the home to myself to really let out all of the emotions I had been feeling and keeping in, and really deal with everything that had happened. Because up until that point, we were seeing each other basically every single day. And not to mention, I had also had an abortion that I believe it was at September.
Oh, shit. Jesus Christ.
I know, y'all. I know. I had got pregnant again during our good season. I was probably about 6 weeks, because I did go into an abortion clinic and they did the ultrasound and everything to confirm that you actually are pregnant and there is a baby there. With our first child, I was like, no, I don't want to get an abortion. Like, we're having this baby whether you want to be here or not. Like, I'm not going to force you, because I know we're so early into our relationship. So if you don't want to be a part, like, I completely understand. You can go your own way, that type of thing. And then with the second pregnancy ending in miscarriage, it was more so of like, oh, okay, well, God did it, because like I didn't do anything to cause my miscarriage. So when I got pregnant the third time, he was very adamant on like he didn't want this child, and like he wanted me to get an abortion. And although like abortion has always and was always something that I was against and didn't want to go through, I looked at it as of, okay, well, I got to decide on the first one. So if this is really what you want, then so be it. And then I also had still the weight of the miscarriage on me, where it was like, well, God has already taken a baby from me once before. What's another baby? Like I hope that doesn't sound too terrible, because it does sound a bit rough, but like that's just where I was in that time space. So when he left and it was just my daughter and I, like, I had the time to really just grieve everything. Like, I grieved the loss of my two babies. I grieved the loss of my relationship. I grieved the loss of my career, my dream career. I had worked really hard for about 3-5 years to become a flight attendant, and for that dream to end prematurely in my eyes, I grieved that. It was like a really sad time period where all I did was cry myself to sleep almost every night. And I say it was also a really beautiful time because I got to spend like this one-on-one time with my daughter and really just be, as much as I could be, the parent I wanted to be for her. Like, without any hate or bottled up feelings, or, you know, because like since I was releasing, I was also able to really like pour the good stuff into her during that time period. So like really, really emotional time, but also a beautiful time. All right, so for the most part, that was my 2020. By February 2021, he was moved out of basic training and went into like the educational side of things, where it's not you're completely cut off from the world. So he was able to start calling and, you know, FaceTiming and things of that nature. And I guess with our time apart, it opened up his eyes to start to see me a little bit more.
I miss you, yeah, I miss you bad. Late night staring at the ceiling got me feeling sad.
He had this new desire of where he wanted to be together. He wanted to be a family. He wanted his family back and, you know, the whole nine. But I had just did all of this like releasing and healing and getting to a place where I was okay with where my life now was. So for me, it was like,
oh my God, you for real? No, you for fake. No, you for real. You lying.
like I don't have that trust there anymore. So the only way I would be open to us even reconciling is if we went to couples therapy. He agreed. We went to couples therapy for, it was a few months, because it was basically the whole time while he was away. We did 3-way where I was on the phone, he's on the phone, and then the therapist is on the phone. And I felt like we really broke so much ground with that therapy. Like, if you're against therapy or like couples therapy, any type of, I would suggest give it a try, because it really did help us communicate a lot better and be able to like voice how we felt without this battle of being who's right and who's wrong. Like, it's just how I feel. Now, how do we move with this new information? Like, and how can we adjust to where we're still being ourselves and, you know, not changing for the other person, but still taking in account the other person's feelings and thoughts. And, you know, it's just, I feel like it did a lot of good. By the time he returned home in May, we were back on really good terms and were a couple again. And shortly after, we moved to Arizona. It just felt like we had this fresh start. Like, we were a couple again. We're moving to a whole new state together. We got our family. Like, it just felt, it felt like a fresh start. I had my career that was going well so far. He's in his new career. What could go wrong? And then June comes around and I find out that I'm pregnant.